All right, top of the hour here at WTSQ. You were listening to the Morning Mix with Maya on WTSQ 88.1 FM in Charleston, West Virginia. In that block of music, before things wrapped up, we had Remy Wolf with Cinderella, Janelle Monáe featuring Big Boy with Tightrope, and Baker Boy with Mitagen. I am joined in the studio by the one and only Dottie the Psychic, and we're going to be talking about stuff that Dottie does, but then also about a very cool group that Dottie is a part of, and it is the Metro Valley Pagan Pride Group. And we're going to be hearing all about what they are, how easy it is to join up with them, and also about some future events that are coming up. How are you doing this morning, Dottie?
I'm doing phenomenal. How about yourself?
I am excellent. And if you'll come up to the mic just a little bit more, there you go.
There we go.
Perfect.
Speak directly into the... Oh, there we go. Helps if I adjust it.
I can hear you now. All right, so let's tell people, just kind of give people a background on yourself first.
I am as I like to say, if I can get my own line right, neurodivergent, mentally ill, non-binary, polypan, pagan Pisces. And it's a bit of a tagline because these are things that I can't escape, so I've learned to enjoy them. Like, some people suffer from madness. I choose to enjoy mine, and I like to teach other people to enjoy theirs too.
I love that. And I love always an alliteration. So I love all the P's there at the end. That was perfect.
I thought it was perfect. I sat down there because all that is to say that I am a very proud person.
Yeah. So people know you in town and have heard you here on WTSQ as Dottie the Psychic.
Yep.
So how did you get started doing things like that?
Honestly, this is one of those, I have an interesting origin story, and living through it, looking back, I was like, at the time, it sucked a lot. Now I'm like, that's a hell of a story. I gotta watch my language. I'm sorry.
You can say hell.
Okay,
it's all right.
Say hell.
It's the other words we can't say.
Okay, so all the fun ones. Anyway, so I got involved in a bad relationship. It was a toxic situation. And it's one of those things that toxic situations breed toxic coping mechanisms, and I'm still I can never fully say it was abusive because I gave as good as I got, and not unpacking that on the radio. But essentially, I was married to an alcoholic in the backwoods of West Virginia, and I would end up being the one who paid all the bills while we took him to the bar. So I'd end up like night shift nurse, stuck at a bar on a Thursday night, which is a miserable experience to be the only sober person at a backwoods bar in the middle of the night. So I started drawing my cards again. I got back into my occultism, which is something that's kind of been with me my whole life. I've always seen spirits and all that. But this was kind of the desert of the soul period. And I got me a pack of index cards and crowns and pens, and I started drawing these cards, and people would come up and ask me what they were, and I didn't want to talk to the drunks. So like, do you want a reading?
Mm-hmm.
And either they would walk away and call me the devil, or they'd sit down and get a reading and be like, okay, I want you to get him a beer so that he can get drunker faster and I can go home.
Yes.
And so that's kind of how it got started, but it reignited my passion for just occultism in general, like paganism, all the cool isms,
mm-hmm.
the weird isms, the strange isms, occultism. So I started getting back into my practice. And one of the things that I had learned about in this practice is this concept of the wizard's mask, where you sort of create this character. And a lot of the old, like 1970s and back occult circles, you'd have a witch's name, a code name, so to speak. And essentially, that was, it was a lot more dangerous back then in a way. Also, people think it's cool to have a username, I guess, for lack of a better word.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so in my mind, I was kind of still stuck in this kind of crappy day-to-day grind. So I started creating this character, Dottie the Psychic. What would Dottie the Psychic do? What do I really want to do? And I realized I started to adopt those characteristics. I stopped being so passive. I'm like, okay, well, Dottie Psychic is a comic book character. There's no such thing as a passive comic book character.
Right.
And so I slowly became the person that I had created in my mind. And there was a point where I could no longer maintain this character in my mind and the life I was living. And I texted my uncle in the morning one time. I'm like, Uncle Tim, I'm done. And he says, and I was expecting marital advice. Like, we'd had a big blow up fight that my ex had pulled a gun on me, and I was done. Like, done. I was like, I just was looking for marital advice because, till death do us part. I didn't
What
realize,
do I do?
Yeah. I didn't realize how close to death we'd gotten. So he's like, I'll be there in an hour. I didn't tell him about the gun. I didn't realize I hadn't told anybody about that till like 5 years later, and I put it in an article.
Yeah.
And my aunt found out, and she's like, did that really happen? I'm like, I didn't realize I hadn't told you all. What was right? So he's like, I'll be there in an hour, and he sends my mom up, and I quietly pack up, and I go down to St. Albans, and I'm like, on my way down there, the South Charleston crow flock had like migrated to St. Albans for the day. And so I'm like driving under these trees. I look like a flood victim. I'm in the quintessential gray jumpsuit. Like, I've got this gray sweater on, the gray pants, and a Ninja Turtle toboggan on. I got my dog and a bag of dirty clothes and some important magical items. And I'm just driving, and there's like 200 crows just squawking away, and that was my daddy's bird. I'm like, I have made the correct decision, and it's been kind of a roller coaster since then.
Yeah,
that has led to a lot of things. Like, I started going to events, and that's actually where we found Charleston area Pagan Pride, and that was run by a guy named Colin, and he, love his heart, he was. He's a character worth a whole show by himself, but I would have to ask his widow before I spoke, because he was a good person, but he was also kind of an aggressive person. He was kind of just an odd duck. But when he passed away, the whole pagan community was kind of looking at this event, because we gather around events and we gather around shops. And it was a big event in our community, and it was just like, it got canceled, and we're all staring at it like we're watching it slowly fade. And I got to be the person who was crazy enough to jump on that grenade and take point. And when I did, it was also in the middle of a lot of the anti-trans legislation that was going on last year.
Yes.
And so I was, for the first time in my life, politically charged. I was very angry at what my government was trying to pull. Like, it was bad enough when it was a bunch of dumb people online running their mouths, but like, now this is real. Now
when you see, laws and things being put into place and people backing these laws, it creates a fire.
And people that I would otherwise love and respect, like, it's messed up. It's really messed up to look at somebody and know that you could call them at 3 a.m. if you're in trouble, and they'd let you crash on their couch, or they'd come pick you up. But also, they're voting for your destruction.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where we are in a lot of things. And I don't think that, and there's still this disconnect, because politics is a show. And a lot of people have the mentality about their politics as they do about football, which is probably why they're both so toxic. People team up rather than think it out.
It's true. That's a really good way to put it. If you're just tuning in, you were listening to the Morning Mix with Maya here on WTSQ. I've got Dottie the Psychic in here with me in the studio, and we are just getting ready to start talking about the Metro Valley Pagan Pride and how it got started. We were leading that story right into how this organization got together.
Yeah, so that's kind of, it was a lot of things all at once. My mom passed away in 2021, and so I had a little bit of inheritance. We had this event that the whole community was kind of watching struggle. And there are different little groups in the community, but it's kind of still, it's a little cliquish. There's problems in the pagan community that Metro Valley Pagan Pride is trying to fix. One of those is, I think every pagan in the valley thinks they're the only pagan in the valley. There is a lot of I think every metaphysical shop gets, like, you get so many letters a year from somebody's grandpa typing out one-handed Bible verses and sending it to you. Yes. I've got a couple of good ones, like a couple of good trick tracks, and I got this one on my desk that's like 8 pages of just one run-on sentence of Bible verses. Like, where's your punctuation? But essentially, it was kind of that storm where there was all this political upheaval. Our event was crashing. And so we wanted the event. And it started out kind of as an event. I'm like, well, if I am taking point on this, if I am, and I asked Colin's widow if I could before I did anything else. I'm like, would you be okay with me taking over this? And she was like, I would love somebody to take over this. He would be very proud. And I think Colin would be very proud. It's funny because his event was actually one that had protesters. One of the best videos, highest rated videos I've got, most viewed videos I've got, is from his first Charleston Area Pagan Pride, where we actually had like protesters, and they were pretty nasty. And so we pulled it together. The community, we got all the little local groups were so excited about this. We got people who really hadn't participated in the community, and we got it together. And so we started building this event. I'm like, well, if I'm going to be in charge, I want this to be more than just an event. An event is one day, and a lot of people meet up, which is great. We want to get the community together. But when you do it just like one day, then that kind of leaves us vulnerable to all the little groups. Like you'll have there's some really cool groups, like there's the Kindred, there's the UUC. The UC has Spiral Grove in Charleston, and I don't know what the pagan group in Huntington is, but like they've got a little outgrove there through the UUC. But you've got like all these little groups and things. But when people just come together one day, they split off. You kind of leave yourself open to predators.
Yeah.
Well,
and you leave yourself open to being completely divisible. That that camaraderie, that closeness that's formed when you have these events and everyone comes together, everyone starts dividing again.
Yeah,
once that event is over.
They do. Like you come out, you get seen, and then everybody goes about their lives. Mm-hmm. They just go out there, and a lot of times, and that kind of leaves us open to like covens in themselves are not a bad thing, but that structure is vulnerable to starting cult mentalities, which is part of why I don't belong to an individual coven, because that happened to me as a kid, and you've got all these people. And also there is a suppressive force out there. There's problems in the community, but there's problems outside of the community coming at us. Like you don't have that support of somebody else who is an adult who's had to defend themselves against the I want to say heretics. I'm not going to say Christian, because I know plenty of good Christians. I know Christians who pray to their God the way the pagans do, and I got to love that. I got to respect you. But also there's this heretical force that we're all dealing with that will hound you and be rude and is more interested in winning some victory over you than actually caring about your personal psyche.
Yeah.
And so having a community to help deal with that, to talk to people, and just, families. Like, if it sucks to be the only person, that othering hurts. And you don't have to just be the only one.
Right. And, when you and I talked originally about, just sharing what Metro Valley Pagan Pride is and just how inclusive it is in all of these different factions, not just, because there are different areas of different pagan, pieces. Yeah. And then it's also including the Pride community in on that as well.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Here's the thing. Like, it is a great place because it is, like, neutral in that manner. It is, because it's neutral, but it's also other. We do attract a lot of people from the queer community, the entire queer community, but also a lot of straight people who are just disenfranchised. Mm-hmm. So it becomes a place where nobody cares. Mm-hmm. Like, it's one of those things where what makes you different is good for you. That's you. Mm-hmm. Come and, get a piece of cake.
Exactly. No, we talked about as well with just my own personal history with, looking at, different things and alternative sources for, just information. And I remember being interested in, Wiccan and witchcraft and things like that growing up, but there was no place to go. It was, you were very hidden.
Yeah, you got one book from Silver Ravenwolf, and and you hid it under your bed.
Yeah. And it's kind of like what you said. So many pagan people feel that they are the only one in their community. They're the only person that is interested in this type of thing and is making this their lifestyle. But having Metro Valley Pagan Pride and having this large group of people and having events and things that people can go to and meet others,
Right.
having the same similar interests.
One of the big things that, and this has been inception, like we're a year and a half old. We started in February of 2023 really with this, and so we're toddling, but we're toddling hard. I'm really proud of how far we've come, but we've also got a lot of ideas. One of the things that we're actively working on right now is setting up a formal council where people are actually like vetted and brought in so that we can bring members from every different little subsection.
Yeah.
Because one of the things that we run into is that this group of pagans won't talk to this group of pagans because I'm bed hopping in the 90s.
Yeah.
And this group of pagans doesn't want to do anything with the rest of the community because they are lineage pagans and they think that we all got started with the craft and ergo we're not as legitimate. I'm like, I've been doing this since I was 16.
Well, one thing too, when you keep using the term pagan, we talked about this as well before we're doing this interview live, and how there is the negative view of that word because a lot of people know that word when thinking about the motorcycle gang.
Yes, so they think about the one percenters and the motorcycle gang, and it's kind of funny because I actually heard somebody talking about the motorcycle gang like yesterday, and they kept saying the pagans, and I'm like, I kept perking up because I hear my word. But no, that's not the right.
It's not the same.
It's not the same. We are not the same.
They are not affiliated.
That's funny because, like originally Pagan Pride was the name of the event, and as it's become the name of the organization, people were starting to get confused. So we ended up calling the event Broom Not Vroom Pagan Pride. And the organization is Metro Valley Pagan Pride, so that we could kind of keep them separate.
Yeah, I love broom, not vroom. That's pretty good.
That was not my tagline. I remember here that actually one of our other council members came up with that line. I'm like, oh, you got to be kidding me! And like, this is the first time that I let this is not mine. Just because I'm the flashpoint doesn't mean this is my fire. I got to be the one to pay the lawyer. That's my part of it. That's why I get to be president, and I'm always going to have a special part of this, but it's not mine.
I love that. Let's take a break just really quick. Let's hear from our underwriters, the businesses and organizations that help to make things possible here at WTSQ. Then we're going to hear a song by a band called Hex that I love. They have a song called Runes.
Ooh.
And so we'll hear that and come back. We're going to hear all about this event and kind of what's going to be happening at this, what people can expect, and when it's going to be happening. You were listening to the Morning Mix with Maya. I've got Dottie the Psychic in with me of Metro Valley Pagan Pride, and we're going to hear more from Dottie after this break.
WTSQ support comes from Elk City Skate Shop, located at 613 Tennessee Avenue, a locally owned skateboard shop offering a variety of skateboard accessories, clothing, and local West Virginia brand apartment skateboards. More information at Elk City Skate Shop on Instagram.
Support for WTSQ comes from Lola's Pizza, a quaint cottage eatery serving Neapolitan-style pizza with cocktails, tap craft beer, and outdoor dining. Located at 1038 Bridge Road in Charleston. More info at lolaswv.com.
Support for WTSQ is provided by Arts Amplified, offering grants to bring art and music to the community through paid opportunities for local artists. More information on grant opportunities at getcreativewv.com.
to be friends, you and me. I know what it's meant to be friends, you and me. I know what it's meant to be friends, you and me. I know it's meant to be friends, you and me. I know it's meant to be friends, you and me. I know it's meant to be friends.
I love that song. That has been Hex with Runes Ruins. It is 11:22. You are listening to the Morning Mix with Maya here on WTSQ. I'm joined in the studio by Dottie, the psychic of Metro Valley Pagan Pride, and we're talking about just all things about that organization and specifically about this event that they have coming up. And Dottie, let's talk a little bit about that and tell people what they can expect at this event and what this event is all about.
Well, Broom Not Vroom. Okay, there we go. Okay, Broom Not Vroom is our Pagan Pride flagship event. We're still putting it together. We're still looking for volunteers. We're still looking for entertainment. We're going to try and have food trucks this year, and we had kids' activities, and we had protesters. I'm hoping we're not going to have so many protesters this year. You know, we don't really need a hating zoo, right?
I feel like anything like this, though, is definitely, you're going to have your protesters. You're going to have, just people who completely disagree with everything that you stand for.
You know what we did?
Yeah.
We did. And they do. And I'm like, okay, well, you're allowed to be an asshole.
Oh, see, they
sorry.
kids. Yeah.
You're allowed to be a pain, but there are still rules. And I got to say, that I want to shout out for Hurricane PD and Valley Park staff. They really watched out for us, and we had security. Most of the people there did not realize that we had protesters because we were kind of at the back of the park. We were at like the big shelter, which is where we're going to be at again, September 21st. So come down, check us out. It is Mabon. So if you come down there, they were all out on like the main road. So every time people kept yelling, I'm like, why are you protesting kids' soccer games? Because there was a bunch of kids' soccer games going on at the same time.
So much stuff that goes on at that park.
There were so many kids' soccer games. They had the whole tournament. They had a kids' soccer tournament going on at the same time as our event last year. So people thought they were protesting the kids' soccer games because we're way back in the back. But we had a little bit of everything. We had a drag show, we had a fire eater, we had a singer, we had a belly dancer. That was for entertainment. We had kids crafts because I don't think people realize how much there's a lot of families. There are a lot of pagan families out there. So people want to bring their kids out, and so we had stuff for them. And we had, of course, merchants. Like a pagan event is where you get your supplies, like you get your craft supplies. We had a bake sale, and we're hoping to have all that again. We did have a hot dog stand because we had a professional caterer who was going to come in, but they had to back out last minute last year. So we're going with a different one this year, and hopefully we'll have them, and we're going to try and get a hold of a couple of food trucks. And it's as big as we make it. It's as important as we make it, and we've got a very passionate event crew.
Mm-hmm.
We have a very passionate community. And the more people get involved, the bigger it's going to be. We had 200 people last year, which is funny because actually one of the videos, I did a video on all the heat we caught last year because it shut my whole channel down. I had no room to create anything but this video on what was going on in the world. But one of the hate churches that had showed up did a video where they're like, nobody came. I'm like, where were you at? Where were you at?
Yeah.
I had to edit it down, because she was, calling out people, they were there, and they saw that nobody was over there but the merchants. I'm like, if you came at 10 o'clock in the morning before we opened up, there were, but, I say people started rolling in between, 11 and 12, and it was all day. It was an amazing experience. So, September 21st, Valley Park, Hurricane, we are going to do it again, and we will be open from 11 to 6 that day. So We are pagan. We are proud. And we'll be there.
So where do people find out about this? Do you have like an online presence where people can follow and find updates and things
Right.
about the event?
Yeah, actually, if you want to get involved more in just like the organization, because the event is one day, right? We have a whole organization. You can find out more about mvpaganpride.org.
That is awesome. So again, the date of the event
September 21st.
and that's going to be at the Hurricane Park,
Oh, it's going to be at Valley Park.
Valley Park in Hurricane.
Yeah. Okay, so you know where the wave pool is?
Mhm.
It's down from that. Like they've got the night market going on in that same park right now.
That's it. Then they've done a lot of really great renovation and everything to that
beautiful.
park. I grew up in Hurricane. And I remember going to the Valley Park Wave Pool when I was a kid. And that's pretty much where those grounds stopped. You know, there was just
Yeah.
trees and things all back in there. We didn't have the actual park part where there's hiking trails and there's soccer fields now. There's there's fishing lakes.
Yeah. Oh, they have like a huge pavilion. There's like there's like a disc golf course.
Yes.
I know when you were talking about when we were kids, it was just, there were a couple of walking trails back there, but they cleaned out that one whole valley. And now, like, there's big open fair space, and we're at the big pavilion in the back.
That's awesome.
So, like, and
There's parking there.
there's parking.
Tons of parking. And so you
got a
guys are going to
kitchen.
have vendors, you're going to have food and all of that. And then this is just really just all about camaraderie
Yeah.
and feeling, included, finding your people and learning more about pagan pride.
Yeah. And here's the thing, like, one thing I've learned through my years of being involved in the pagan community is that pagan dominant is not pagan exclusive. So if you're not pagan, but you still want to come, then come. You are welcome to come. Like we've always got this one weird Christian that's usually like a super queer. Like they're usually like trans. I've had drag queens, but they have tested all the waters and decided that Jesus and drag are the way to go. And like, okay, you're welcome to come hang out with the pagans too.
And if that's that person's life path, then everyone is invited. Everyone is included in this all-inclusive event, family-friendly event as well.
Yes, very family friendly.
And what's that info where they can find all of that again?
You can find out more at mvpaganpride.org.
And then where can people find you? You said you talked a lot about your YouTube channel
Oh, yeah.
and things. So where can people find out about you?
You know what? It's funny because I forget that I have to advertise for myself too. I am a local psychic, and you can find me, Dottie, at DOTTIE,
Dottie, thank you so much for coming in and hanging out today. And I've had a really good time just kind of educating our listeners about, what Pagan Pride is, about the Metro Valley Pagan Pride group, and about what you do as well.
Thank ya.